Hey, what's going on, everybody? In this video, we're going to be going over my TBR for the 2018 BookTubeAthon. This is the first time, obviously, I participated in the BookTubeAthon, but this is like a yearly event. And it's hosted by a whole bunch of booktubers. I'm going to leave all their links down below, so definitely go check them all out. You guys probably already have been, but in case you haven't, go check them out. And this is going to be a complete mess of a TBR, basically, because I'm also participating in the NEWTs Readathon. And both of these readathons sort of overlap, but all the challenges are all over the place, basically. And especially with the NEWTs Readathon, you have to read certain books in a certain order to unlock further books in your TBR. So really trying to get both these TBRs to sort of come together into something that was a total just like mental breakdown mode. So yeah, it's going to be kind of a mess, but let's just get started. And the first challenge is to do a coin toss to determine your first selection. And I just finished the nonfiction readathon, and I didn't get to Ancient Philosophy, an Oxford Very Short Introduction by Julia Annis. Now I don't know if I want to read Ancient Philosophy or Pre-Socratic Philosophy from the Oxford Very Short Introduction series. So I think Ancient Philosophy is going to deal more with basically Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Whereas, and maybe like some of the Roman like moralist philosophers, whereas pre-Socratic philosophy is obviously the people, basically before Socrates, and Thales and Anaximander and Heraclitus and Parmenides and Zeno and all that stuff. So let's flip a coin to see which one. I'll read first, and let's see. We're gonna go heads for Ancient Philosophy because that was the first selection from earlier, and then tails will go with pre-Socratic philosophy. Fail. Alright, let's try that again, maybe not quite so hard. And we have tails. So, we're going to scrap Ancient Philosophy, apparently. Whoop. And we're going to do Pre-Socratic Philosophy. Alright, so now let's go on to the second challenge, and that is to read a book that's about something you want to do. And out of all my NEWTs, the only one that even remotely made sense for something I'd like doing is this book called Rescued, What Second Chance Dogs Teach Us About Living with Purpose, Living Abandoned, and Finding Joy in the Little Things by Peter Zulin. So it's a book all about basically rescuing second-hand dogs, basically. And we already do, me and my wife already do that. We have Daisy. She's sleeping right now, so I'm not going to go bug her, but you've seen her probably in some of the past videos, and we have 2 rescue cats and a rescue bird, so that's basically what we do, and we want to both obviously just keep doing that as time goes on. So that one made sense. That one is literally the only one that even kind of made sense to fulfill that requirement. So we're going to go with that one. Let's see, the next one. Oh, and I'm not going to do the 7 challenges quite in order on the BookTubeAthon. I'll get to all of them. But before I can read Rescued, I also have to read another book to unlock that book, and it's to read a book with magic. And I'm going with the first book in this trilogy. This is the second book, but the first book is A Song for No Man's Land, and it's essentially a World War I fantasy with magical elements in it. I really don't know too much about it, but I read tons of World War I history books. If you guys haven't been following the channel, that's a really big history topic I enjoy reading about. So I thought, a World War I fantasy, I have to pick it up. So I'm going to read the first one. I just got to get a hold of the first one. Oh, and that's by Andy Remick. Alright, so once I read that one, I can then read the Rescued book. Alright, so now we have to read a book to movie adaptation. And on my NEWTs TBR, the only one that I had that was ever a movie, because obviously a lot of my history books really don't become movies, is I'm going to read Beowulf, and it's out of my Fellow Society British Myths and Legends book. But yeah, I'm going to read Beowulf, and I believe this is the Heaney translation. And yeah, the movie totally sucked, and it's not even remotely, or I guess it's kind of close, but there's a lot of elements in the movie that's totally opposite what the whole poem of Beowulf is trying to convey. But I'll just have to slog through the movie, and I'll do a reread of Beowulf. But before I can read Beowulf, I have two books to unlock from the NEWTs one that had to fit in to the BookTubeAthon challenges. So we have to read a book with green on the cover. Unfortunately, this actually matched up, and I'm going to read The Function of Reason by Alfred North Whitehead. And he was a philosopher from the early 20th century, and he's most famous for having the kind of quote that a lot of people refer to in philosophy, where he says basically all philosophy is just a footnote to Plato. And I think that's like a very good statement. So I want to see what this guy was all about. I've never read him before. I do have a philosophy section up here. I've just been really slacking off on my philosophy works this year for some reason. So I'm hoping to get some philosophy read in the next couple months. So I'm going with The Function of Reason by Alfred North Whitehead. And number 5 is to read a book while wearing a hat the whole time. I actually don't even own a hat, really. Out of all, the only thing I think I even wear, like I don't ever wear baseball hats or anything like that, is I have my like winter, like Uber winter Carhartt hat for when it's like super cold with like a face mask and everything. So yeah, that's gonna be really fun when it's like 80 degrees outside. But you know, I'm gonna read something with this hat on. I'm probably going to end up reading the Song for No Man's Land book just because that one's fairly short. Alright, so let's go on to the next BookTubeAthon challenge, and that is to read a book with a beautiful spine. And I went with kind of an interesting one. I have a lot of the Flow Society books, but since I already had one, and I'm not going to read like the Landmark Herodotus or these, do rereads of those. But I have a whole set of these books called Our Debt to Greece and Rome, and they have like really cool little faces on the spines, and I thought those are kind of cool. They're like really neat, just sort of old books, and I think they're kind of charming, and they're like kind of like simple way because they didn't have just jackets or anything. And this one is Poetics of Aristotle, Its Meaning and Influence. I've never read the Poetics of Aristotle, but I'm going to be reading it as a translation next month in the news. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to read this sort of commentary or sort of introductory essay type book, I guess, on that written work by Aristotle. So yeah, I have absolutely no idea what it's going to be like, but I thought I'd give it a chance. Alright, and so now let's go on to the 7th BookTubeAthon challenge, and it is simply to finish 7 books. We've covered 6 so far, and for the 7th, like I said earlier, before I could read Beowulf, I had to finish 2 other books for those challenges, and one is to read a book with an animal on the cover, and I picked up this audio book on Audible when it was on sale, and it is You Are Now Less Dumb by David McRaney, and this will be the 7th book. I'll try to read, or a 7th book for the BookTubeAthon challenge, and I'm not really sure what this book is going to be about. I know the author has another book called like You Are Not That Smart, or You're Not As Smart As You Think You Are, or something, so I'm not really sure what I'm getting into with this book, but it looked pretty interesting and it was on sale, so I picked it up. So there you guys have it. Those are the 7 books I'm going to try and read for the BookTubeAthon. I know it is kind of weird. There's only a tiny bit of fantasy. There's the World War I fantasy, and I guess if you count Beowulf, it's sort of epic poetry fantasy, maybe. And there's really not that much like regular history, to be honest. Yeah, not any just like plain history. So that's kind of weird too for me, especially. But yeah, basically, I just had to kind of go with whatever was gonna line up between all the challenges from the 2 overlapping readathons, so I just kind of went with it. Tell me what you guys think down below about any of these selections, if you read any of them, or if you have comments or questions about any of them. Yeah, leave it in the comments down below. I'd be glad to talk to you about them. And also, if you're participating in the BookTubeAthon, leave that down below as well. I'd be glad to talk to you about it. And especially if you have a TBR video, I'd like to go check it out and see what you guys are reading. And whatever you guys pick, always remember, read victoriously.